Hi, Mark. I'm going to monitor.
Hello, ma.
How are you? Okay, so let's
Very
just
fine.
let's
Good that
ping people in, and then I'll bring the professor
okay,
in.
yeah. Okay.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Um, Welcome to Think Yoruba First. If you are here for the first time, please click on the greenhouse icon so you could be part of this club. Today we are talking to Professor Mayowa Ogedengbe. He's an emeritus professor of Africology. He's also a Yoruba nationalist. He was one of the uh, leading members in the creation of Nadeco in the past. He's a real Omoluabi, and he's still actively fighting in the cause of the actualization of Yoruba nation. Before I bring the professor in to talk to us, he's going to be talking through my phone here. I am going to play the Yoruba National Anthem, and then we're going to start the topic. The topic for today is Battered Race Syndrome and Yoruba Psyche, a case for self-determination by Professor Mayowa Ogedengbe. So let me play the national anthem, and then we'll start. Don't have good volume here. Excellent. So, Professor, I have you here in Clubhouse. Please, you can go on, sir. Please let me know if you can hear him very well or not.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Can you guys hear him in the house? Can you guys hear?
Yes, yes, I
Okay.
can hear. I don't know if other people can hear
We
too.
can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, Professor Mayowa Ogedengbe, please, you can start, sir.
Okay, we say compliment of the season. So people, I can hear, you can hear me, but we cannot see. So greetings of the moment to you. So my colleagues, my aburos, my ebons, and issue the best of the team. My name is Dr. Mayowa Ogedengbe from Temple University, Philadelphia. I'm retired professor of Africology. Africology to some people may be very strange. So what is Africology? I think I should intimate you with that. It just simply says the African-centered approach to knowledge, because what we are aiming of is a paradigm shift whereby we look at phenomena through the African epistemology, the way of knowing, as opposed to other perspectives like Eurocentricity. That's Eurocentric perspective is what you are raised up with because you are colonized by the European, or if you are Asiacentric, if you are subscribed to Asia, Islamic, or Asiatic impression. So the Afrocentrist looks at African phenomenon from African perspective. We have two sets of, when it's written to what is Afrocentricity, just means the study of African phenomena, icons, motifs, and personalities from African perspective. An Asiatic person could look, or a European person could look at African phenomena using European perspectives. They're going to look into Africa phenomenon from their own, what is pro and co, which one agrees or disagrees with their own center. So it is very important for us to take note that this new movement came out from the struggles, especially from our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, in the United States. It came out of the struggles. So I'm one of those first group who got a PhD in that field. So I attended Howard University. My concentration was, I do journalism, comparative politics, and international relations. But I do my PhD in Africology at Temple University. So I'm going to look at this phenomenon, which is African-oriented phenomenon, which is the influence, the African psyche, vis-a-vis the Yoruba self-determination, and the underlying unseen scourge, which is plaguing us. We call it battered race syndrome. So it's a tertiary perspective. We have to go at it methodologically. Look at us. We have something we call location. Location. Dislocation and relocation. Location is we're gonna ask, where does the phenomenon stand when you are looking at it? Or there are three aspects of looking at it. The phenomenon we like looking at Yoruba psyche, vis-a-vis Yoruba self-determination. Before the Europeans came to colonize us, Yoruba psyche was located somewhere. What is it doing today? Where is it today? And what will it be tomorrow? So we have composite location. Composite location is the inherent state of a phenomenon at its pristine or orthogonal domain before pre-intrusion that we relocate it to another position. Situational location is the position of that phenomenon you're looking at it like Yoruba Psyche, the way it is today. Is it correctly located or not correctly located? Relocation is the position where you find out you want to relocate the Yoruba Psyche to its functional mode. Is Yoruba Psyche functional today? The way you see everybody, you say, I'm Yoruba or I'm African. Are they really functioning the way an African should function to be able to meet your hierarchy of needs, to be able to be viable within your where you are as other people are? If you look at the African world today, you cannot say that we are okay. You see, our economy is not good, and our whatever we do does not go to enhance our survival thrust. Survival thrust, everybody in this world, they fight for viability. Even the little organisms, if you do anything that does not enhance you or your extended self, including your next generation, that will continue to make you to be viable in this world, it means you are not doing well. If you don't correct it, you go into extinction like the dinosaurs. So if you look at the way Africans are today, we are not correctly located. So is the Yoruba Psyche, through which we are finding this to be correctly located through self-determination. What Yoruba culture? What is let's provisionally the construct called culture? The Yoruba culture, is it okay today? There are three elements that make a people, according to experts. A common language, common psyche, common what's that? The third one. Common language, common psyche, and then common history. Once any of those three elements is tampered with, you will never be anything. So therefore, a culture is defined as a way a people define, adjust, or design their mode of living according to their angle to the cosmos. In other words, if we are located at the temperate zone, like we are now, where we are different, I don't know where everybody is. I'm in North America now. There's a snowstorm in New Jersey where I am now. And then this is frigid zone. It's not the same thing in Nigeria today. So everything we do here, this is frigid zone, temperate zone. They design, they fashion their life, the interpretation of reality according to their location. You can't take whatever you have here. Like if you remember, some of us who are familiar with late Brother Fela Rasom Kuti, Anikulapo Kuti's record Gentleman. The gentleman, is not correctly located in this dress and psyche probably. If we wear three-piece suit in 90 degrees climate and you're sweating, you do all those things. So it is in everything we do. If our whatever we do is not in conformity to our location to the cosmos, where you interpret reality from that element, so we're gonna be a misfit. We won't be able to make progress. It's like you planting a seed. There are certain that will not thrive in temperate zone. If you take it to tropical, it might. For example, I've been trying to get a wuro. I like a wuro because it's very good. I cannot get it. I cannot plant it here to be viable because it's separate zone. So the yam we eat, we have to go to Colombia to import yam that we eat in the United States here. So the location of people or phenomenon at its correct ecology makes a difference whether that crop or human being will be functional the way it should. So that is the reason why we're having most of this problem, because we are not correctly located. So to see that what is battered race syndrome, it has to do with the this kind of historical perspective. Like say, it tampers with our history, it tampers with our psyche, it tampers with our language. So before the Europeans came, to Yoruba land, we were doing things in Yoruba ways. We were able to build a civilization, which according to recent research is one of the oldest, over 70 years old civilization, because the Yoruba DNA is one of the oldest that I think the report will be out not too long from Harvard University Studies to see when the elders say that the life began at Ile-Ife. People were laughing because we don't know. But other artifacts are pointing to the age of our elders. So we see an average Yoruba people, they are like, because that's one reason that Yoruba, being a mega cultural center of the world, we are not functional where we are. So goes the rest of Africa. So those who conceptualize the lyrics for Yoruba National Anthem, saying that Ogedengbe, they probably have that in their mindsets, because the litmus test is to see the situation in what we call in the Afrocentric school Ma'afa. Ma'afa is the Black Holocaust. Wherever they bring Yoruba people, they are the ones that going to be like the radicals in chemical reaction. They are energizing and giving the vent of other Africans. We see it in Cuba. We see it in Brazil. Now Brazil, Yoruba is a compulsory subject to be taught in Brazilian schools, authorized by their government. And if you look at it, again, from the perspective of the world belief system, Pope Benedict invited all the heads of the religion. There's something called religion, just cultural integrant. They invited the Agba Awishe to be with other religious leaders in the world. Now, Yoruba belief system, we call Orisha, is now number 6 going to number 5 of world religion in terms of popularity, and it's still growing. So the question of Ogedengbe is very relevant to that. Let me come back to the battered race syndrome. It's so-called, if you look at it, situational location of the Yoruba psyche or any other African today is not, we are not correctly located. So anything you see is abnormal. Be it the personality, be it our economy, be it our politics, be it even the how we relate to the spiritual world. They are not necessarily correctly located. That's why we don't, in the simple propositional logic, when the premise is wrong, whatever you put on that premise will be wrong. So if you can't add it together, you're going to find out that it will never work for us. So I look at to see, in order to understand this, I was at the conference, Negritude conference the last one I attended was in 1887 at Florida International University in Miami, Florida. The proponent of Negritude movement was Seda Senghor, the president of Senegal. So everybody who came to that meeting, to that conference, we have the narratives were the same. There was a take, they said that it was so compelling that when everybody from all, both at the continent and at the diaspora, every participant, mostly Africans, there are some Europeans, just observers. At the stage, it was so somber. The tears that was shed that day, if collected, it could be more than the kind of volume of water that goes to from Congo estuary to Atlantic Ocean. Nobody could talk at a stage. People were talking of suffering, discrimination, persecution, lynching. This narrative is the same. That's kind of the battery. So I was looking, why is it this way? Because we have common experience. We were not, even here in Africa, we are not functional within our space. Anywhere. So I look at our case, it looks like the case of a child which is battered. A child that is born comes to this world to enjoy, like any organism, all its rights inherently intact will be functional. But if any of those factors are tampered with, the person will be dysfunctional. So the African people, by virtue of history, became dysfunctional the moment we have external intrusion. If you look at the classical African civilizations coming from Kemet, ancient Egypt, those who built the pyramid, who invented science, I know one of especially Imhotep, who built the architect, he was the father of medicine, not Hippocrates. He tried the brain surgery in those days. The Greeks used to worship him. Then, today, those who built the pyramid, who invented science, especially the principle of art, what are they? They became enslaved. So, whatever we produce became the ownership of others. If you look at a bunch of inventions, especially in the Western world, especially in the United States, they trace it back to the Africans. Even the vaccines they are using, the idea of making vaccine was African-made. You see, it came from Obaluaye, the Obaluaye movements, spiritual mystery schools in the Yoruba system. They are the ones who create quarantine system. We told the world that. But those who can think, and where are they today? They are nowhere. So, because they tampered with. So I look at the case of a child that is battered. It takes a sequence. After the environment, the space of the child was broken into, you find this sequence from rejection, isolation, terrorizing, ignoring, corruption, alienation, and attenuation. If you look at the African system, that's exactly what happened. The moment we lost through how was our space invaded, including the Yoruba space. It came through the issue of discovery. They make our place stopping places. By virtue of the inherent worldview, we are xenophilic. Most Africans, especially the Yoruba, we love strangers. We give room, we accommodate others and all because we see them as the extension of self. Our logic operates on, we have the unitary logical system, which is unity in diversity, as opposed to the ones they brought dichotomy, either or. So they come here, look at, even in Nigerian experience, it's only in Yoruba space that you see others come there to thrive. If you go to the Hausa Fulani area, they put us at the outskirts of the city called Sabongeri. And then, even when they come, they stay at the outskirts, which is what we call apartheid system we fought like in Southern Africa. So because by virtue of Yoruba culture, so we accommodate that because of our inherent worldview, inherent attitude to strangers, xenophilia. So they were able to penetrate. As immediate, the Europeans came there and others, by any one way or the other, like the Fulani we are fighting now, they take over. They took over our thinking system. Look at the one they use is religion. How we relate to the cosmos, to our spiritual self. So therefore, what do we get? We get our God is changed. Olodumare was not relevant. The nemesis of each culture, like Eshu is a benevolent Orisha. They give him the attributes of Satan or Lucifer. And then when a Yoruba person begins to discriminate on the basis of other belief system, like others were killing each other, you are not mean, like either or system became our norm, partially became, it affects families today. So you find all these things happening. In the case of what we mean by rejection is the first one. You will find out that we'll be rejecting things that belongs to us, like normally culture values pass from parents to their offspring. But the reverse was the case in the Yoruba system through invasion of space, especially when they introduced the governing ethos, the language and value system in the European-made schools or the Islamic-made schools. So we don't get values from our parents. Our parents did not, and two, we didn't. So what does that mean? So we work in contrast, in negations to our anything that can enhance our belief system. When you practice a religion or a doctrine that has no relevance in your history, nor does not support the principle of African-centeredness in your life, nor support your survival trust, it means you are working against yourself. We have a nosology, we call that jargon, that's religion misorientation. I will come to that later. So we have that what happens to us as a people is what you are seeing the result today. Why is it we come here that we fit into the system? Because we were coached. It's very difficult to take an American, a Chinese, to put them in the Yoruba system be functioning if we, assuming we are 100% who we are, is we take a period of orientation. When they give you a visa, you come here, within 2 or 3 weeks, they give you a job, you continue to function. Because you are trained not necessarily for us, for yourself, you are trained to support them. You prepare for them. If you look at the history of how the so-called African Geographical Association that sponsored those so-called explorers and missionaries into Africa, we see their manifest, the blueprint, what they wanted to achieve. Whatever they said, if you can go to the archive, you will see that is what is happening to us. It's not accidental. It has to do with the ability to intrude into our space. So our reality was altered. So be our vision. And if this trend continues, what do we expect? We're not going to the way of the dinosaurs. So this thing, it breaks into a lot of research, but at this stage, maybe there's a question before I go to the African Psyche system.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor. For the benefit of those of you just coming in, we've been talking to Professor Mayowa Ogedengbe, who is an emeritus professor of Africology, and he's been talking about his theory, the battered race syndrome, and he's relating it to the Yoruba psyche. And I think this is applicable to all indigenous people psyche as well. And he's using this to make a case for the need for self-determination. If I'm going to summarize some of the things he has said, he talked about the fact that this battered race syndrome, you can essentially summarize it as a reprogramming of the people based on the experience. And he talked about some of the characteristics that a race of people that has been battered, some of the things that they displayed include things like rejection of your values, rejection of your God, your supreme being, rejection of your culture, and pretty much essentially you're working against the tide of your African-centered self. You're kind of reprogrammed in a way to function for the West. And he said it beautifully in a way that you should ask yourself a question. Why is it that we come into the diaspora and you start to function? Because if you take somebody from the West, a true Westerner, and you bring them into our true Yoruba system, they will not be able to function for months, maybe even years. Unlike us, where we function quickly. The reason is because even the education that we received, which is interesting because we talked about this yesterday briefly when we were talking about knowledge and education. The education that we received from the beginning is really to serve the West. And this is part of the reprogramming agenda, including the ongoing excavations in our land. Some of it are really geared towards an attempt to reprogram us. So I hope that I summarized you correctly, Professor. And I think essentially he said that we have a altered reality of ourselves. And these are some of the characteristics of a battered race. And he's trying to say, looking at all of this, self-determination is the way to go. Otherwise, we go the way of the dinosaur. Do you guys have any questions at this junction before we go on? I think Fred is trying to come up. Okay, Fred, do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, a quick question. Greetings to the house and greetings to the prof. Thanks for the opportunity of witnessing your awesome thoughts and narrative. But while I was following you, a question did come up in my mind though. When you talk about the location of the Yoruba psyche, and I'm thinking in extension that applies to the black race or black people, whatever colonized people that exist today. And you said reclaiming that, or the loss of that, or the location of that actually was somewhere. But I'm trying to connect and trying to ask also that by reclaiming your spirituality or your understanding of your world based on your location, does that ultimately serve as the point in reclaiming self and reclaiming land and leading to self determination?
Okay.
Well, can I?
Yes, go on, sir.
All right. If you look at there is an approach here. We call it atomism and holism. And atomists look at X and Y. In analysis, it says you treat X as if Y does not exist. Y finish with X, it comes to Y before it can make inference. A holist that Yoruba are African system, we look. You say if there's maybe X, Y. Maybe if there's no X, there'll be no Y. So it studies both together at the same time. So we cannot separate one from the other. In terms of spirituality, when you say self, according to what is written in the bottom of the pyramid of Giza, self-knowledge is the greatest knowledge. When you say self, it entails a lot of things. So we can't separate one from the other. So spirituality, for example, if you want to live according to what you should be, inherently Africans and Yoruba, especially our onset, is spiritualism. We are a spiritual people as opposed for materialist people. We are dealing with functioning materialism, engulfed, domiciled arena. Especially what is happening now, that cosmological shift is one of the problems we are facing in our world today. When, in our nosology, when the material elements you possess becomes your denominator, that depicts your value, is abnormal. So, for example, there are a lot of things we used to do that we don't do now. There's one Yoruba proverb, an elderly person says, in Toro, Toro, I know some of you may not know what Toro is. 3 pence, like let's say like 50 kobo. In Toro Bamashi, which means money is like Dennis Robinson. They say money is the grand level of humanity. The price of everything is this money. So there are a lot of this money could not buy in composite Yoruba arena. But now money buys everything, including your vote, even though you're gonna suffer tomorrow, they're gonna give you tokens. So the value system has changed. So if we gain our spirituality, it doesn't function in isolation. Holistically, they are all intercepted. They are all interwoven. So because we are a holistic people, well, you tamper with in the political science, the system theory, when any part, like an organism, when any part, if the circulatory system is faulty, the whole human body will be faulty, or all those, any of the systems in the body. So it is by a person or a people or a nation. So it's only if you live according to the way you interpret reality according to your angle to the cosmos, which means everything has been attested, it will function. When one is faulted, the other ones will be. So I don't know if I answer your question.
Fred. Are you satisfied with his answer? I think essentially he's saying that perhaps you're saying that spirituality is just one of the things, right? Because there's a whole lot that's kind of been messed up. Fred, you can talk and let us know what you think.
Okay. Thank you for your response. Thank you. Yeah, you did answer it. But I was asking because when you include location and when you physical location and when you talk about the Yoruba psyche, I don't think that is physical only, but because the number of people who ascribe to being Yoruba or who have lost their way from being Yoruba, in order to reclaim that, I think this is the question, and this is the reasoning I'm thinking. I think it goes past just location, because first reclaiming the mind and reclaiming understanding and reclaiming their metaphysical understanding of spirituality and connection to land, regardless of their physical location, I think that is of prime importance. That draws them back or draws us back to who we are as a people. That was what the question was actually. Thanks.
Yeah, when I say location, it's not physical location. It's just a concept. You see, it's just the position, the state. For example, let's offer Yoruba Psyche. Yoruba Psyche was at one state before external intrusion of European or Asian Islam or Christianity or Buddhism as they are doing today. But when you get those values now, it's another state. So the beliefs, what you believe in and the way you apply those things to your daily living will be different now than the way it was. When I say it's not necessarily physical location, it's just the state, mindset of that person, including the person you I said. It includes his history, his language, his psyche. Okay, let's take one that includes the language. Look at our language today. Can any of us speak? We are speaking Yoruba. Can we just freely speak Yoruba fluently without intruding it with either Islamic intrusion or English or any European language? I would think that is bad. That is something you want to say, oh yes, I know. If you speak wrong Yoruba grammar, nobody will say, but just make a mistake with misplacing now we have verb is in English. You're going to be ostracized. You're going to be told that you don't belong. So it's just, they are all inclusive. So that's what I mean, that it's not necessarily physical location. It's just a concept. Location is a concept. The state or a person's, a phenomenon is before external factors influence it. So that's what I mean.
Okay, I think that answers the question. Let's keep going. You wanted to move on to the next stage of your questioning, right? Of your lecture.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yes, I wanted to say that I want to introduce to us the concept of we cannot do the Yoruba psyche or African psyche without going to African personality. There is in the Afrocentric school, there's nosology. Nosology is the way we codify diseases and find a way to deal with it. A healthy personality is, if you look at the construct, the core and the periphery they will communicate. And they're gonna, whatever happens between the core, they call it African self-extended orientation, the core, the periphery, African self-consciousness, or biogenetic core and psychogenetic periphery at the manifest the functional level. So we call it, sometimes we refer to it as a concept of surface and deep structure. They will communicate before you can be correct. If the core takes cues from adjacent conceptual universe, for example, the conceptual universe, cultural universe, like the European cultural universe or Asiatic cultural universe, if a person's core value system takes cues, instead of communicating with the secondary, which is called psychological secondary, it will be dysfunctional. So, and it's like what you see in manifestation. The core is black, taking white values, we see a conflict because the person will be alienating whatever it was. It couldn't make a sense in a way that's going to make it to be wholly functional. Self-alienation, that's what something we find out. Our people, our social system, in government, the import, we have been trying, look at what we've been trying. We tried British Westminster Abbey system. We went a French unitary system. Now we are a US system. Do they work for us? We are as if you like, look at the composite Yoruba concept for your system, or your political system, or the Warafamefa system in all the other Yoruba states. You find out the check and balance is there. Everything is functional. Was functional. But today, you look at what is happening now, like the federal government coming to Lagos to want to take over somebody's land. All those things, they do not exist in a check and balance situation. It's even the one we copy, they don't do it that way. That's because we have a misorientation. Psychological misorientation is the state when somebody's performance does not necessarily reflect his inherent state of beingness. So the genetic core and psychological periphery do not agree. So you find misorientation. That's it. We produce personalities we call like Afro-Saxon. The people who see themselves European mentality in African. If you look at it, there was one classical Yoruba musician who died Akada. But Adeolu Akisanya had the story of an Akada man he got PhD from Manchester, he got all those things. He came back to Lagos on a show. He said he wants to show that he's of European. He wants to do what somebody has not done before. Everything he did is in contrast. So he wanted to eat all those things he used to eat in the United Kingdom was not available. He grew up eating akara, laro. He said he wanted to show because of the mentality when the street hawkers say akara, akara, something. He was they say alaka. Allah is the first time, the second time, when he missed his food, he couldn't eat breakfast 2 days. The third day, when that same person said, he forced him to say, Allah Kara. So I'll be calling you, the girls, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are calling me. That's the misoriented man. And so we have these cases like we have. That is a chain of houses in those of us who will be familiar with Abeokuta. I used to live in Abeokuta before. There is a place called Ishabo. It was an experiment of the Egba Divisional Council to say the housing system. They built the house and they were used to build the houses in there. There's no space. There was no like aeration like the tropical caste system we have, a lot of elite workers, they troop to that area in the heat, in the afternoon. Not everybody, if you don't have an AC, you won't be able to function. The experiment failed because they imported for the need, they imported a system which does not agree with their genetic core. So the manifestation was dysfunctional. So it is in state of a belief system, religion. There's nothing called religion itself, but cultural integrant. That's what Max Weber said. And so it is. If you practice any doctrine, any religion, or whatever that does not have relevance to your own history, it doesn't have relevance to survive you, for your survival. That's the survival thrust. Does not augur well connect you with the spiritual self. It means you are dislocated. They call it theological misorientation. You will see the example of it in our space, in Yoruba space today, like any other African space. You see, so it is. And then we are trying very well to behave, to fit into the mega world, which is dominated by the Asiatic and the Europeans. And what do we get? Dysfunctionality. That's one of the reasons that we will steal money from us. We go and give it to them. We will, everything they do, they will force us. We ask them to be accepted. There's no place to go that they're going to accept you as. If you want for housing, they're going to discriminate. Yet, we keep going there because we believe this is what we're going to do. W.B. Du Bois called that malady negromachi. Negromachi is a condition, psychological condition, when you are trying to force yourself into a house that doesn't want you in there. And we keep trying. Some of us, for example, look at aesthetic misorientation. We will straighten our hair. We will bleach our skin. We will change the diction of our boys and everything, the way we walk, the way we relate to our children, the family system and everything. The extended family system is no. Individualism takes hold of groupness. So we are therefore we Husi, we us I became Husi. That is I am, therefore you are. And all those things, they are function of a dysfunctional psyche. And so on, you see the example around you. So it is our way of life, our thinking, and if we continue like we are seeing today now, where that's cosmology, we are spiritual, not in terms of being possessed by Holy Ghost in the Pentecostal church, but in terms of living a harmony around with nature, with ourselves. Group orientedness has become individual orientedness, individualism. We limit. We used to have family agnostic system. That is extended family system, this and that. It's now nuclear family system, Olorogun system. They are all that it has social implication for everything. A lot of people think people throw away into the trash rather than share it. Even within our system, somebody who's lazy, who cannot work, we have a solution. We never had a homeless people ever in Yoruba system. the laziest of you could not work, there is extended family effort. They said, Ole, Agbatola, Agbole, Dabadashofole, Balaro. In order to find a way to accommodate those who are physically or psychologically inept. All those things, they have changed. Before, the fear of the unknown. There are certain things based on the principle of justice. You don't take what doesn't belong to you. It's a carryover from Mahatic system that you don't cheat. They say, Oba you, Oba Orunwu, if you believe wherever you are, the greater power is you don't cheat. And we have some social caveats that regulate that. When the Europeans came, in order to curb that, change to individualism, if for example, there is a story, if you can check it out, it's an Hollywood movie, Oshe Shonko. When somebody, they went to steal the artifacts, the wooden carving of the icon for Shongo, Baba Moga. So because they were collecting, as the Europeans always do, they will steal all those arts. They will go and be displaying it in their museum and everything. So this particular man is a Shongo priest. They went to steal his the symbol, the icon for Shongo. And then each place they give them 7 days for that person to return it, they didn't. And thunder will strike. It happened to first, the second, then the third person that people they went to sue that family into court that he was killing them with they call it a trial by what do you call it? They have a term they use in those the colonial time. When they were during the trial, the defense went to hire a lawyer, and the lawyer called the material witness and the defense lawyer, who is an engineer. So they do the test of conductivity of materials. That if the wooden oscillation go cannot conduct electricity, and electricity has to do something with thunder. So why will this happen? Can ordinary wood in European system, can ordinary wood really do that? So they lost the case. The prosecution lost the case. You see? So this is kind of contradiction of the system we inherit. And if you look around us today, we are not necessarily where we ought to be. So how do we relocate? We have to go back and
Go on, sir.
Our institutions to see that if it was good.
Sorry, Professor, please hold on. Let's take a couple of questions, then you talk about relocation, because I think that's the last thing you want to talk about, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, Akikaju, are you there?
Yes, I am. I'm the government.
Okay. Please, Akikaju, please go on.
Yeah, I don't want to ask a question, but I really want to appreciate the submission of our guest speaker relating to what he has been speaking to the question of Fred, because we really need to understand one thing. For example, I see the Yorubas. I was watching a video today about a Yoruba king in Ghana, and I think he's a Dome or something. I saw it on one of our platforms there. But I also related to it, speaking to Yoruba people that are in the regions of the West Africa and the Francophone regions. You will notice that the way they have bastardized our language and the psychology in us, it's really, really very, very disheartening. You hear them now, any small thing they will say, kwa, kwa. If they say, mo fe ri kini yen kwa, mo fe gba kini yen kwa, mo fe se kini yen kwa. You know, everything is now like they have to add friend to it, just like those of us in the English-speaking region. So this is what I guess our guest speaker is talking about, the location thing, the state of our mind, the psychology based on the topic, how we have been battered to even think that what is happening to us is normal. It's what sickens my heart, and I advocate for change for, and that is the more reason why I want a society that thrives on checks and balances that I know there is already in place before it was overthrown by the whole history of the invaders, or the colonials as we call them. So it's most important that we have to get this construct right. That's what I just wanted to add the last time before you were speaking. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So I don't know if anybody else have a question or comment. Mr. Ojo, do you have anything to say to this? Okay, I don't think it's there. Okay, Prof, you can continue and talk about relocation. How can we relocate the people? This is one of the questions I have here. It took hundreds of years to dislocate us and reprogram us, and it took a lot of money. It took the work of a lot of critical thinkers, missionaries, people who actually spend the whole of their life to uh, perform this social engineering of our people and get us to where we are today. How are we going to? Is it even possible to relocate us, to fix what is broken? Is that even possible?
Yeah, relocation is that's the that's a way we have it within that's most of the efforts we are trying to. There's from the formula composite location, situational location. The situational location, before you can do relocation, we find out everything we have, psychological or biological or whatever we have in space now will be treated as abnormal. We know what normalcy is. If we know pre-intrusion state of normalcy. Let's the institution of marriage, for example. There's a way we do it, or child winning. There's a way we do it. It's not that we will be going back without taking into consideration the things that are good among the one we have encountered post-intrusion. The ones that are agreeable with our way of life is the one we're going to inculcate. First of all, you have to have a space. Nkrumah said, seek ye first political kingdom. All of that things shall be added to you. If you don't control our space, we won't be able to. For example, the syllabus they were using in school, they said, don't teach people history. Don't teach them their language. They were because they were still calling post-colonial Nigeria called the African language vernacular. They're still calling that we have no history. Tabula rasa approach. Federal government of Nigeria did that in the last 5 years. So the syllabus we have to be rewritten, and I'm sure that with the struggle now, people are seeing the importance of Ishese, our ways, because we had a 3-day fasting and meditation period. When that's interfaith, when the Muslims or Christian or the ATR Yoruba Psyche, when they start to pray they will go to their origin of faith. Some will call Allah Kubaru. Some will call Jehovah Jesus. The other will call Lodumare. But in the middle of their prayer, they are saying the same thing. I observed that. So, if the space is dominated by us, there will be no intrusion of federal might to go say, don't do this and this and that. So first, seek ye first political kingdom, or other things shall be added unto you. So the location we take in terms of revisiting all the institutions, or we have to have a council. The council, as they did in South Africa, Fruit Commission, or something like that, to look at the reconstruction or relocation of Yoruba into their domain after we get Yoruba space, to create concerted efforts. Like the matter of the Psyche, we will do, our aim will be for the next generation. People have not formed their value system between 9 years downward, according to experts. We're going to work hard on that. But ours is maintenance. With every day that passes, we already, whatever we have, you can only appeal to the secondary. You can't change the core, of a personality, according to experts. So what I will say is that relocation is necessary. With everything we do, we inculcate policy to make people conform and work on the syllabus or syllabi they use in universities. I mean, in the school system, including the primary, especially the primary school. The language will be very important. The history must be taught in a way, not adulterated history. Then it will affect the psyche, the way people interpret reality. That's the modern thing. We're going to have to put all hands on deck. Even look at what we are doing. You find out, if you look at an average youth in Nigeria today, the way they dress is aping the northern. Our dress system is changing. Our shokoto. It's a fad now. People are having goatee like the Islamic scholars used to do. If you look at some of the ancient Egypt, I've never seen a bearded Oba in Yoruba except Sidi Akran during the crisis of 1960, 62, 65. He was the only. If you look at the pictures of the ancient Egyptians, that's our primacy. Have you seen a bearded pharaoh? They always shave our head like our Obas do. That's our way. Today now, you see a lot of, even the way we build our houses. Now we are building fortresses like medieval Europe. You see, these are all the things that is happening to us. The location we take, and that doesn't make us secure, because you have all those things. They still burglarize houses, So it will take a concern. First of all, we have to get our space, employ like minds to really plan this and have a blueprint. Then we'll be able to. And what if we do it right? It will. If our religion could be taken over. The other day I was looking at Yaolorisha in Russia. It shows the mega aspects of the Yoruba system. So this is a way we can all do it. It takes every group to do money upon regression. Ọmọdé-gbọ́n, àgbà-gbọ́n, láti Ile-Ife. Ọmọdé níṣẹ́, àgbà níṣẹ́. So it will take a group effort, concerted all of us, to do this relocation. So that's my suggestion. Thank you all for inviting me.
Thank you very much. I I have a couple of questions. Then I'm going to let others ask questions and comments if they do. Can we say that the refusal of Yoruba nation, what do you say to those Yoruba people? There is a lot of Yoruba people, and I think maybe 70% of Yoruba people or more today, they don't want Yoruba nation. They are talking about diversity, beautiful diversity, all these kind of Western constructs that is being displayed in the United States. They will say, oh, we're just politically not serving enough as a people. There is strength in power. Our diversity is our strength. All these things they use in America to cajole people. What do you say to those people? Do you think that, can we say that they are battered? It is the battered race psyche that is, making them think like that? Or what exactly would be your thoughts?
I think observably, it's not the fault of those people like that. You can only draw a reference from the source of your knowledge, the way what you see, and then you reference. So that's what they know. For example, they don't know there is anything you say, what is the governing ethos? What is the governing ethos? That matters. They don't see it. They are looking at things from the superficial level. So it's knowledge will let them know, because that we can still work together. We are contiguous nations, not necessarily the way we are today that is injurious. Look at the way people are killing people. Look at the way they're scattering the unhealthy rivalry coming. If you see all those things do not work for the people. It doesn't even work for any African people. The Europeans, they do it. They are working together in concert. For example, when they were going through the Desert War, they said coalition forces. It's not a replica of what happened when Peter the Hermit. I'm talking of what happened in Iraq. When Peter the Hermit called all the Europeans to come and go and fight the crusade. Is that what they always work in concert, because they understand their history and what they need as a people. So maybe because if we have knowledge of history ourselves, and they will know that it's not right. Even those people who are taking cues from without, they work against themselves. When you kill somebody because they disagree with you, how many people will be left over time? You kill everybody, you kill somebody else, kills you too. Who wins, who gains, who loses? So that's why those who are talking like that, they don't really have the thorough knowledge of reality of what is happening. That's why they conclude so. It's work for us. Our job is to make the unconscious conscious. You can't teach them what to do. When they are conscious and have true information of reality, they will think the way you think. And I'm sure each of us that are listening today that devote time to see, because we think things are not right, a little bit this and that will make us better and be able to help some of us who have not seen the light.
Okay, thank you very much.
How?
Hello, Obakonshi, are you there? Yeah. I think she's not there.
Maybe we could do a reset then. Reset the room.
Mark, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
Yeah, well, this is Think Yoruba First, and we just had Professor Mayowa, who I believe he's an emeritus professor of Africanology. So he told us a lot about how the effects of colonization and the continued legacies have displaced or dislocated the
Obìnrin can anybody hear me? I think we lost Mark.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Black, please kindly reset the room and so that we can. I don't know what's wrong with Mark. Kindly reset the room.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I will do. Hi everyone. So my name is Black Rose. This is Think Yoruba First. We're a Yoruba nationalist platform. Today we have a Professor Mayowa talking about battered race syndrome. So if you're in the audience and you've heard the lecture, please come up, ask questions. We want this to be an interactive dialogue. If you're not following the house, please click the greenhouse icon right at the top of the screen and become a member. We have many interesting and intellectual sessions and would like you to be part of us. So is there anyone on